What's up, you pieces of shit? Talking about Remix Heart once again for the fourth goddamn time. Holy shit. The ride just doesn't end here. The ride continues to keep on going, and I'm at the front of it, and it's all going to be over, and I can't take it anymore. Now, BlazBlue Remix Heart, I've made like 3 videos on. I made a video for my first time, well, not my first time really reading it, but more of a skimming through it. Then I made a video breaking down the stuff I read through, and then I made a video about talking about Mai and discussion of her character, and that was mostly talking about the plot of Remix Heart. So technically I did 3 videos on Remix Heart, so this will be the 4th one. Now, I do believe that Variable Heart does improve on some things that Remix Heart has done, but for some reason I keep coming back to this manga because there's so much that could have been done with it. There's so much that is personally wrong with it to me, but I'm not going to go into everything because I feel like I'd be nitpicking at that point. But Remix Heart is a weird manga that does not fit no matter how much you try. You can add so much BlazBlue elements into this, but it doesn't feel like BlazBlue, you know? It feels like a high school slice of life manga with some action thrown in to make it seem like BlazBlue and some terminology and the characters you know. And that's okay. But it's not okay in the case of Remix Heart because they go a little bit, like, it's just not really enjoyable to read through. There's nothing stand out about the manga that'll make you go, oh my god. No, it's none of that. None of that in this manga. There's nothing that make you remember it, you know? It's extremely forgettable, and that's the sad thing about it. At least to me. Like, there's nothing in this manga that has hooked me in any shape or form. If anything, the only thing that's really hooked me was, like, how it could have been, you know? So, I want to talk about maybe some of the things that I really wanted to express. Maybe some of these things that could have been changed about Remix Heart to, you know, maybe, you know, make it not so bad or something like that. But I will throw out a fun fact before I start this video. For those who don't know, the mangaka for this manga is actually a person named Sumeragi. She is an artist who had illustrated both the Remix Heart and Variable Heart, the entire manga, and she's also one of the artists in the little ARCSYS team, the Gap artists and whatnot. She also is the one who created the design for Mai and Kaizou. So Mai's character got conceived by freaking Sumeragi, which I'm not shocked at why. I'm not shocked. Now I see it. There's no way Mori, I know Mori comes up with some crazy shit, but I know damn well Mai was not a result of was someone he created. I swear to God. But anyway, Sumeragi also did the story portraits for Mai and Chrono Phantasm Extend. Now, I could tell by looking at the Chrono Phantasm Extend art that Mai does look a little off, but I was like, okay, that makes sense. And, you know, Kaizou as well. And also, before working for ARCSYS, Sumeragi also made several not safe for work doujin featuring Ragna and Jin. So, you know, yeah. But anyway, moving on to, I'm about to move on to the actual video part of this. So, so we're gonna get started with talking about one of my main problems with this manga, Mai Natsume herself. Now, I don't have much to say on Mai. I personally find Mai, like, boring. Like, really, really boring of a character, you know? Like, the thing about BlazBlue that I like so much is that even with the characters I don't like, they have, like, pizzazz to the character, right? For characters like Platinum, she is this freaking magical girl who treats everyone like shit, who's made up of 3 souls, and then, like, she could just, manifest shit into existence. It's fun, you know? It's fun. You know, I don't like New, but New's cool looking. She, at least, you know, has cool moments to her. Mai doesn't, you know? Mai's pretty lame when you think about it. Now, people give, like, characters like Naruto shit for being, you know, a generic shonen character-like idea, but what sets Naruto apart from that is that, like, there's something to his character, you know? It's not something that will jive with everyone, but, like, he feels like a product of BlazBlue, you know? He doesn't feel like someone who came from a completely different series integrated to BlazBlue. The thing about Mai is that, like, she's, like, so far, like, for me, she's, like, so far removed from BlazBlue in Remix Heart that she doesn't feel like she was a product of the series, and that makes sense. Sumeragi was the one who created Mai, and I'm assuming she's made the story of Mai, too, because Mori isn't writing BlazBlue I mean, he's a supervisor, but he isn't the exact writer. If anything, the dude, Deko Okoye, the dude who wrote Alter Memory, is the one writing the story. So I'm gonna guess that him and Subaraki kind of teamed up together to write Mai's character, and Mai's character isn't very good. She's like, her and Kajun both, but mostly Mai, you know? Like, she feels like a product of something that's not BlazBlue. And I could deal with that, but it's at the same time, it's like, it doesn't make her interesting. You know, the thing about BlazBlue is that it has a lot of interesting characters. Every character is interesting in some shape or form. Mai isn't to me. You know, Mai's pretty basic. She's more like lame. I don't know how to describe it without making it sound like I'm just like shitting on the character, but like, I feel like they had a thing with Mai. You know, Mai, formerly a dude, being transformed into a woman thanks to the no-name grimoire, and now she has to struggle with the idea of being a woman now. And I could totally understand that, but they don't really go too deep into that. You know, they kind of screw around and make it as a background focus and play what the moments that should be for fan service reasons. And I'm not too big of a fan for that, because like, it's honestly, you feel like that could be a part of Mai's character, and it is, but it's so far in the background. Like, the actual important shit is so far from the background that all you can remember from it is for, yeah, Mai was a dude once. Remember that? That's the only thing people really remember about Mai. And that's the sad thing about it. The only thing people really remember about Mai is like, oh yeah, I remember when she was a dude once, and that's sad. That's honestly sad. Now, it honestly could have been, like, it could have went more hand in hand with her dad. Because her dad didn't, you know, really give a shit about her after she became a woman. And that could have worked. You know, she left the Hazuki family, went to the Torifune Military Academy. That could have worked. I swear to God, that could have worked. But it doesn't, because at the last, okay, it doesn't, first of all, it doesn't work because it doesn't really come up all that much. And second of all, you know, you got Chachakaka, like one of the assassins that was trying to kill Mai and eventually just gave up on her. At the last chapter, telling Mai that her father, Huichiro, only was trying to test her, and he loved her in some kind of way. And that's what makes me kind of sad, because that could have worked. It could have worked with, you know, making Mai's dad a complete piece of shit, and then it could have made Mai like they could have went further and make him sexist or something, but that really that would make no sense, because he has a wife, and yeah, that would make no sense at all. But like, it could have, you know, it could have played in a way like, oh, maybe he sees women as weaker or something like that. But again, that wouldn't work, because he has a lot of respect for his wife, and she's pretty strong herself. So again, there's like no way I can try to connect it a way that it would make sense, because Mai turning into a woman to do this is dumb, and I can't find a way to connect it that would make any sense. I'm a writer, but there's no way I can work around this, because I don't see the purpose of working around this. And yeah. And then, like, going further about Mai, you know, now she has her powers. She has no-name grimoire, which can eventually just become kind of any kind of grimoire, which it would be interesting to see, like, oh, maybe she, you know, she becomes this grimoire. But like, I would prefer if it wasn't so situational, because like, Mai's grimoire kind of works in like every situation it has, so there's no struggle for her really. And the thing is, I would have liked it work like Ben 10's like freaking alien powers, where like he gets like, every time he tries to get one power, he will like cycle through a wrong one and has to work around that with that wrong ability. Like, oh, you have to fight a monster that can is made of fire. Okay, let's turn to something of water to beat the beat the fire monster. But you know, you transform into something like, oh no, I have grass, and grass easily catches on fire. I have to work around that or something like that. You know, that could have worked with Mai. You know, she could have like this selection of grimoires, and she could select one at a time and use it for a certain amount of time. If she fights an enemy or something like that that's using a different kind of grimoire or whatever, you know, it could select the wrong one, and she'll have to work around it. But instead, like, it's more of a, you know, more of a monster of the week kind of deal. Well, it's not really monster of the week. I call it grimoire of the week, because like, her and her friends are going around finding different kinds of grimoire and dealing with the situations involving those grimoire. And that could have worked, and it creates like a kind of cool set pieces and stuff like that, you know, cool situations, but it's not really that interesting enough to create something like, you know, majorly cool. And like, I don't know, like, Mai having access to all these abilities could work, but it doesn't, because none of it feels earned. It's like she can just easily on the fly, like, hey, like, she doesn't use it, like, her grimoire powers all the time, but like, it's just, I feel like it could have been done better. And I will talk about another ability of hers, because honestly, I want to talk about Super Taste later, because Super Taste is dumb as shit, but I'll get into that later when I get into it. Like, the thing that gets me about Mai is that, like, I feel like they had the idea of, hey, let's have this wacky character that turns from a man to a woman, and let's write all around that. That's what it feels like to me. It's like they had no kind of direction of where to go with the characters. Like, they had the idea and wrote around that idea. I mean, hell, it's not like that is a bad thing. I do that shit all the time. Hell, for example, Devil May Cry, there was like one scene they thought of where freaking Dante held back, I'm sorry, my bad, Nero held back Dante and Virgil, and they just wrote the whole game around that. So, you know, it's not a bad thing, plus you can get some cool shit out of it. But, like, I feel like it's blatantly obvious. I feel like it's really obvious in Remix Heart. It's like they had the idea, and they just wanted an excuse to make that idea a thing. It's like, oh, let's make a whole damn manga out of it. Like, I feel like Mai herself does not carry this whole manga. Like, she carries it, but, like, not in, like, a way that I find satisfying. Like, how to describe it? She's not a character fit to carry this entire manga. That's what I feel like I'm aiming at. Like, personally, for me, I feel like she doesn't carry it herself. She's not really doesn't feel like a good main character to fit in this manga. Like, she fits. It's just like a whole 25 pages, 25 chapters of a manga. Nah, man. Like, Mai's character kind of falls off, like, early in, and I'm like, why? Like, that's why I just feel like it felt like it just took that one idea and just wrote around it. And then, like, the other idea is like, well, we haven't explored the military academy all too much, even though we really didn't have to. Hey, let's just do that. I feel like the one thing I don't like about this thing is, like, the military academy itself. Like, I'm not opposed to slice of life high school stories. I've seen a lot, and they were done really well. This one was not done really well. It's like they tried to mesh BlazBlue with it, and it does not work. I think why the military academy bits work so well in the main BlazBlue games is because you don't see too much of it. And honestly, it was just a backdrop to show how characters got along with each other. It wasn't the whole premise of something, you know? It wasn't a full-on side manga where, like, shit has to, like, some kind of Frankenstein of a fusion trying to, like, hey, let's get our BlazBlue shit, but let's also keep the high school slice of life bullshittery. You know, let's try to meld that together and see how that works. And it doesn't. Like, the setting does not, like, it just doesn't work, you know? Like, you get these set pieces like you get the desert, you got, like, the desert, the underground. I feel like you don't really get to go out much in the military. You're kind of either stuck in or go to some wacky world where, like, the Grimoire teleports you there. But the only thing you really see outside the military academy is, like, the desert. I can't really remember anywhere else. I mean, there's this beach. But yeah, it's not like nothing interesting, you know? Like, it's really basic, you know? Like, really, really basic and not really, you know, it's not fun. Like, it's not fun to read through this shit, because, like, even, like, the setting they're in doesn't lend itself to, like, anything kind of crazy. And, like, I feel like if they did, you would have to, like, go really hard on it, and it still wouldn't make sense. I feel like if they were outside the academy, which I'm glad they did in freaking Variable Heart, they actually, you know, go out of the academy and experience more out there, I could understand that. But in Remix Heart, it's like you're in this enclosed place that you can't do much with, and whatever you do doesn't really get to, you know, go out more. It's like, I mean, it could work. Hell, stories have worked before within the high school setting and the school setting, but, like, it doesn't work here. It doesn't work here, and it doesn't work here. You know, BlazBlue, like it's an anime-esque game. It's an anime game. You figured it could, like, but it can't tackle all forms of anime. Hell, it's like if BlazBlue was like a straight-up mystery, like a horror mystery shit. It wouldn't work, because that's not what it is, and that's why I feel like Remix Heart doesn't work too well. It's not what it is. This is not BlazBlue, man. Like, holy shit. But let me just move on to the rest of the shit before I freaking get caught in this longer than I have to. Another thing I really wanted to talk about is the fan service moments in the manga. Like, the manga is littered with them, and I get it. Sumeragi is more comfortable and more known for drawing this kind of shit, but at the same time, I'm like, some of it doesn't work. You know, like, the whole manga, it's like, it doesn't work. I don't know how to describe it, because I'm trying to, like, find a way that makes it seem like it makes sense, because I'm terrible at explaining shit. But, like, they only, like, the thing about this is, like, for the fan service moments, it really only ties in with Mai, really, because, like, what I remember I said before about how Mai's, like, whole, like, you know, having to deal with being a woman now ties into the fan service of this. It's only really used as just a way to get Mai into these wacky situations, you know, and it lessens over time, but like in the first 10 chapters of the manga, it's everywhere, and it sprinkles itself later on, and like I'm glad it lessens over time, but like it's like it will probably drive you away just trying to read the first couple of chapters or so. And I feel like more emphasis could have been placed on the characters more rather than the fan service, because like it just kind of treats everyone like I don't have a problem with fan service as long as it's not used a little bit too much. And in this manga, it's pretty much just like not the focus, but it's more like if you read this manga the entire way through, you would pretty much remember the fan service rather than the actual characters of the manga. And I will get into the characters because holy shit, they don't do anything with the characters. But the point is, if they just lighten up the moments and just not make it seem so obvious, like just make it like, you know, sprinkle it. Don't just make it the focus. I think it would have worked out a little bit better than it is now, because it's like when you're starting out, it's nearly in every chapter until something happens, and like I would have preferred if like nothing, like it could have been, you know, lessened and not used too much, or at least I don't know, man. I mean, something like god damn, dude, like you're trying to take a moment seriously and they just bust out something like that. I'm like, okay, thanks Sumeragi, thanks Deco Accord, thanks Mori. You guys could have freaking made an art book for this crap, and I swear to God, it would probably have been a lot more than having to waste the entire manga for this shit, dude. Now, I mentioned before that the characters there's nothing really been done with the characters. Like, you get new characters introduced in this manga in the form of, like, the characters like, the teacher, Estella, characters in the form of Kajun, Akane, there's a dude who thought was a woman the entire time, there's Shiori Kirihito, there's Taro Sasagai, I can never pronounce his name right, and, you know, you get your main characters like Mai, you got Makoto, Noelle, and Tsubaki, you know, the ones from BlazBlue, well, except Mai, because Mai was introduced in this manga, but the point is, yeah, they don't do anything with the characters. Even the main character, Mai, she's really the only one that does everything, and I swear to God, I can barely remember what she actually has done that made the manga, like, feel significant, you know? Like, Noelle, Tsubaki, and Makoto are so wasted in this manga. They don't do anything, man. They're just the groupies. And that's what's sad about this. They're just the side girls to Mai. Like, even Kajun, who was introduced in this manga, doesn't do anything, you know? And Mai's really the only person that actually, you know, does anything. Like, at all. And that's kind of sucks, because I mean, you figured, like, you know, I mean, I wasn't expecting anything major to happen in this manga, because, hey, it's back then when you're in the military academy. You know, they're not out in the world doing the wacky BlazBlue shit like they do when they get older. But here is just, all the characters are relatively, like, they don't do anything, you know? Like, the only character I really, like, liked in this manga, was freaking Jin. And that's because, like, you know, there's like this moment in the manga where Jin like does this JoJo-esque thing, I refuse shit, and I like that. It shows that Jin was a different person before he got older and, you know, went all nutburger and crazy. But like characters like Makoto, I feel like Makoto's like her the best of the five of Mai, Kajun, Makoto, Mai, Kajun, Noelle, Tsubaki, Makoto. Yeah, Makoto's like my favorite, because at least in line it keeps with her character. Like, she's just this goofball side character. You know, well, not real side. I guess she is a side character, might as well be. But she's this goofball of a character, and I love that. It kept that through. But characters like Noelle, you can easily forget Noelle's even here half the time, and Tsubaki's even worse. Like I don't like Tsubaki, but holy shit, I think nothing, like absolutely nothing was done with her. Like, at least with Noelle, she like, you know, cooks her dumb food, and people like, you know, ha ha ha, Noelle's a super cook, ha ha, like, shitty cooking, ha ha. But Tsubaki doesn't do absolutely nothing, dude. Like, holy shit. Like, none of them do anything, and that makes me sad. Hell, Taro gets lucky to have his own fight scene. Shiori gets to do something. And speaking of Shiori, holy shit, dude. Shiori is a character with wasted potential. I can't say wasted potential because, like, I don't know what they could have really done with her if they already did her shit. But, like, so Shiori Kirihito was introduced as this assassin. She was sent out to fight Jin, and then, you know, Mai knew her as a kid, and, well, back to when she was a dude, really. And, you know, she was known for the Kirihito style assassination techniques involving poison, and Mai learned those techniques, and Mai used it against Shiori. She learned of her thoughts through super taste, and boom! Shiori's, you know, sad and everything, blah, 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 and then now they're besties, and not really besties, because now Shiori's like a fangirl of Mai, and I'm like, okay, is there any more to this? And no, she just kind of once her role is done, she just goes to the background and sticks at being, you know, my fangirl, and it kind of sucks because honestly, like Mai's already an uninteresting character as enough as it is, so having another character to kind of just like go, like just, you know, hyping her up and shit like that, and, you know, just try and make her seem better is not fun. And she already kind of sucks now because she could have been interesting, and Variable Heart doesn't do her any favors, and it really does suck. Like, you already got characters who are underutilized, and you bring in another character who just goes to being underutilized. Come on, man. Now, the thing about Remix Heart is that nothing really happens. Honestly, like, actual action and things, the actual action barely happens in this manga. Now, after chapter 10, things start to pick up with actual fighting going on. Shiori is introduced to setting the stage for the darker side of the manga, as well as, you know, Cyber Albar, the main antagonist of the manga, applying his schemes to use Mai as the burning red grimoire. But this is not an action manga. Like, action could happen, but it's not really much of it. And then when it does happen, it's over so quickly that it's like, well, why even bother? You know, like, I know Sumeragi or the writers, I don't know who decision was to not make it like this, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like, I guess being in the military academy kind of limited your situation, but I feel like being in a military academy, you figured the fights could happen more often. You know, if anything, the fights happen away from the academy, except for like the exception, like one that happens underneath the academy and one that happens in the academy where like Jin goes insane from noticing the presence of the Asher within Mai, which honestly, I don't see why. I honestly, like, I get, like, it's supposed to be, like, Jin's power of order. If he notices something evil, it goes, you know, off the onset, like, the Dark One, blah, 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 blah. But, like, I don't know, man. It just seems like, why? And then, like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm trying to, like, think how this could have worked. But honestly, I feel like it's because of the setting and the limited like, the limited shit they get to do outside the academy that could happen. Like, I feel like the Grimoires, right, could have had holders. Like, it's like like JoJo. Where, like, you know, you get the stand users, like let's say, like, I would say, like, Stars Crusaders, right? Let's use the Stars Crusader example. You know, they got, like, a week. Like, let's say, like, the whole Egypt thing when they arrive in Egypt to go, like, they have a week to go beat all the stand users in order to find Dio. Now, these Grimoire could have had holders or something like that, where Mai and her friends would fight the holders of the Grimoire, beat them, and either, you know, destroy the Grimoire, or just, you know, take it. Because, like, hell, one of the Grimoires, I can never pronounce this word, the Aquavalentis Grimoire was taken away by the teacher, Estella. So I feel like that could have worked. Like, maybe they could have, like, you know, been sent on missions, like, hey, you know, Mai and pals, there's these stand users Grimoire users out there. We want you to take them all down within a week before Cypher Albar creates this super powerful burning red grimoire with some bullshit. And, you know, like, that would have been interesting, though. You get a bunch of cooler characters with a bunch of, you know, unique abilities with their grimoire, and, you know, it could have done something with it, you know? Like, honestly, the grimoires are, like, essentially the villains of this manga, and they're just, like, you know, items and books and whatnot, so they kind of don't, you know, they don't have a personality of sorts. And hell, that would have been a good way to introduce more characters that actually felt like they had some substance in this manga, because nobody has any kind of substance in this manga. Even the characters from, like, BlazBlue we know already, there's no substance to these characters, and that kind of bums me out. But yeah, like, I would have preferred if, like, this could have been like an action manga. Hey, you know, the Grimoire could have, like, you know, forced Mai or one of her friends off to another location, and they fight with their unique abilities of the Grimoire. That would have made it a lot more interesting, and plus, it would probably give more characters time to shine. Like, hell, we know that Noelle and Jin have their weapons as of now. They could, you know, go off. Jin could go fight a Grimoire user. Noelle can go off fight a Grimoire user. Tsubaki, Kajun, you could see any abilities Kajun could even have. So, you know, that would have been great, and I would have liked that idea. Then I could finally mention what the hell Mai really is in regards of abilities and stuff like that. Mai is known as a remix heart, which is a fusion between man and grimoire. And upon doing that, you know, you can just gain the power of a grimoire and use all its powers being, you know, I think it's just as simple as that. They don't really expand too much on the remix heart in the manga, but it's relatively simple. Man plus grimoire equals power. Easy. Okay. So this ties into the main villain, Cypher Albar. Now, Cypher he's actually a professor of the Torafude Military Academy, and his whole motivation was to become a hero that would go down in history. by obtaining the Burning Red Grimoire. He would be like someone like Nine, who was, you know, led the charge of, you know, having Ars Magus, the Nox, Ars Armistice, etc., etc. He wanted to be someone like that. He would want to become a hero that people would recognize. And, you know, that could have been great motivation, but at the same time, there's no, like, connection between, like, why he would do the heinous things he did in becoming a hero, right? So the thing is, at one point, he was in Sector 7, right? He was in Sector 7, he became acquainted with Kokonoe, and then, like, he started creating these creatures and shit like that, like artificial beings. And then, like, after he left, he changed his appearance, and soon after that. And, like, right after that, when he was hired by the military academy, he would start going around kidnapping people, trying to fuse them with grimoires, but, you know, then they died. But, like, there's no... Like, the thing is, like, it makes it seem like he's a scientist, right? He wants to be, like, he's obsessed with becoming a hero, so he wants to do all these heinous things in order to become that hero, so he can obtain the Burning Red Grimoire, etc., etc. But, like, there's nothing expanding upon it. It just makes it seem like, oh, I wanted to be this hero, but boom, I went crazy and started kidnapping people and fusing them with grimoires and killing them. Like, there's no connection, you know? Like, there's no character to him. He just went from, oh, I'm insanely evil, but I wanted to be a hero. You know, I wanted to be this hero to go down in history, but there's no turning point, you know? There's no turning point. Now, people, like, there's like, it's hinted that he was, like, mocked. He was mocked for, you know, he wanted to be a scientist, and people mocked him for it because, like, oh, you're crazy. The Burning Red Grimoire doesn't exist. You're crazy. Well, why would you do this? But, you know, he kept going after it. But, like, there's nothing, you know, building that up, you know? We don't see Cypher all that much. Most of the time where you see him is when he's crazy. You don't hardly ever see him in a moment where, like, you know, you see him as more of a down-to-earth kind of person. I mean, you do, but, like, he's just using that as an excuse to go after Mai. You know, that could have worked, but at the same time, I feel like there could have been more to his backstory and more to his character. I mean, he didn't even need a big-ass backstory. Just do more with his character instead of making him just seem like crazy all the time. The whole point of him, like, in the manga was supposed to him, like, you know, acting like this nice, kind professor, you know, luring people in and, you know, using them to his advantage. And I could have been fine with that. But, like, at the same time, I'm feeling like, okay, there could have been more done with him. You know, there could have been, like, a breaking point where he had, like, in his backstory or something to make him turn this way, you know? But as it is, Cypher is kind of, like, you know, just there, you know? And, like, the one time you do see him, like, you know, out of, like, you know, what could have had that. It's like, okay, Relius is here. Relius pops up. Cypher's like, oh, shit, Relius is here. What the hell is he doing? And then, like, you know, that there could have been a way where he tied Relius with, you know, maybe Cypher himself. But I don't know how that could have worked. I mean, like, he isn't, like, there's, like, no kind of, like, oh, man, maybe Relius is such a good scientist or some shit. Like, it's like a rival kind of thing. But, like, you know, Relius doesn't think of anyone else because he's evil. But, like, the thing is, Cypher, it could have been more interesting, you know? It could have been interesting. But as it stands, just like the rest of this manga, he's so underutilized that it just makes him seem like he's just here because they needed a villain to use. And that's what he feels like. He just feels like despite showing up earlier in the manga, he feels like so much of a last-minute addition that it sucks. It honestly sucks. I mean, I don't personally find him any interesting at all. Even from a design standpoint, he doesn't look like a standout. But damn it, man, like, honestly, like, if you're gonna use a villain, you might as well just freaking, you know, use them, for Christ's sakes, man. So now we're getting close to the end of the video. I can finally talk about Super Taste and why it's so weird and dumb. And, like, Mai's abilities in general, like, Mai's abilities in this manga, like, not in Variable Heart, just in, like, Remix Heart, feel like that no one had an idea what powers to give Mai, you know? Straight up, in Variable Heart, she really has just the Grimoire powers and the Outseal. But, like, in this, she has the ability to taste emotions and feelings of food. She can freaking transfer... Okay, with her intermediary Grimoire, she can transfer abilities from people. Then she also has the power to Remix Heart. Then she also has, like, a super mode. And then, like, she's able to turn her Grimoire into multiple Grimoires and shit like that. And even turn into a Nox Taurus, for Christ's sakes, which is, like, so dumb. Like, dude... Like, I swear to God, I feel like, in this manga in particular, they didn't know what to do with my... Also, she also has, you know, the Kirihito style techniques, but I can't really call that an ability. I can only really call that as like a technique, like a physical technique. It's not really a power. But I feel like in this particular instance with mine, they didn't have an idea what power to give her, you know? They had no freaking idea. They either wanted to have super taste. No, we have to give her this power to Grimoire, which is able to copy other powers of Grimoire, which makes her like Mega Man or some shit. Like she has or like use different powers. No, she's a remix heart, which is like she loses the intermediary Grimoire's power. No, she has a super mode. No, she can like it piles on. I'm like, what the hell do you want her to be? Like again, like having all the like it's just like there's no like. Mai's character and powers, like her powers and shit, just there was like no one had an idea what to do with her. They just threw shit at the character and expected that to work, and it doesn't. Like maybe I'm just freaking out over nothing, but at the same time, like you could not pull that shit off if she was playable, and they didn't. They gave her one thing to do while she was playable, and that's just to throw her spear. There we go, fair enough. But like here it's like, well, shit, like. It's dumb. Like, okay, the only thing I like about the super taste idea is that the fact that it was referenced in BlazBlue cross tag battle, which they didn't even have to do, but it was cool. When Teddy freaking throws out his poison curry and Mai eats it, and instead of getting damaged, she heals. And like, I like that idea. They didn't have to freaking program that into it, but that's a nice callback. But you know, that's the only thing I even like about the super taste ability. Like. The fact that she's like likes Noelle's food now, which it could work as a comedy angle, but like they don't. Like, it's not really that funny. I like the idea of Noelle making shitty food funnier because having Mai like, oh no, I like it now. Like it could be funny, but it's like funny only the first time, you know. Like the fact that they keep doing it for Mai and shit like that. It's like they reference it here and there. It's like okay, it's not funny anymore. But like. I don't know, man. Like the super taste ability is really dumb. Like I have accepted people have really weird abilities. Like My Hero Academia has a bunch of like dumbass powers, but like the thing about it is they have to work around that ability to try and make it work. There was no way in hell they could have made a whole manga, a whole character based around the super taste ability, for where Mai is able to like freaking like use the super taste, right? And like work that around in her everyday life. There was no way that could have happened. So, yeah, I think I'm done talking about the manga. Like Remix Heart is not good. It's not very enjoyable to read. Like there's some moments that I could see people liking, but I got nothing, man. And I'm done talking about it. This is like my last video talking about it. I will be talking about Variable Heart whenever I get a chance to. I know it's finished, I think. So when I read it and get a hold of it, then I'll, read it. But till then, I'm done Variable Heart. I'm out of here. I think I've talked about it enough. I've made this is my 4th video on it, so I think I'm like done talking about Remix Heart. I can only milk it for so long, man. So I'm finally done reading the BlazBlue Variable Heart manga, and I will definitely say this. It is way better than Remix Heart, and it does improve on some things. That being said, there are some choices that I don't agree with, and added on with pacing issues and a rushed ending. Variable Heart just misses the mark of being a great manga. It's pretty middle of the road and decent, and I was pleasantly surprised that I actually was going to enjoy this more than Remix Heart. Again, there are a lot of problems with Variable Heart, which I will get into in this video, but there are some good things. I guess I could start off with the more positive things before I just, start talking about negative shit the entire video or something like that. But yeah, let's talk about BlazBlue, the Variable Heart manga. I will say that Variable Heart has a much stronger opening than Remix Heart, as Variable Heart starts off from when Jin takes on Tenjo Amano Hokasaka, rather than Remix Heart's rather dull and fan-servicey opening when Mai is just starting off her life in the military academy. Speaking of fan service, it has been significantly toned down compared to Remix Heart. Thank Amaterasu for that, though I still gotta deal with Mai's new and incredibly dumb outfit, which was introduced in this manga. Gross. The events of Variable Heart happened right after the Ikaruga Civil War, and that does have direct influences on the plot. I feel like this is much stronger than Remix Heart, as Remix Heart feels so separated from the rest of the BlazBlue franchise, while Variable Heart kind of has to take, pieces of the BlazBlue series and put it into his manga and try to make a straight line. Since it happens right after the Ikaruga Civil War, it's dealing with the after effects of that war, which I'm surprised they actually went with, and I'm glad they went with, because, you know, again, as I said before, Remix Heart feels so disconnected from BlazBlue as a whole that I feel like it's just, you know, it doesn't feel like it's part of the same series as when you think about it. Hell, right off the bat, we're introduced to Mei Feng Lapis Lazuli, the leader of the Zero Squadron, aka the Wings of Justice. Just from the few pages alone in the first chapter, we already know her name, what her involvement is in the NOL, and the fact that she desires Mai's grimoire-infused body, since she's so off-the-walls batshit insane, which makes her 10 times more entertaining than Cypher Albar ever was, you know, the main villain of Remix Heart. She's even in contact with Hazma / Yuki Terumi of all people, and it was actually kind of funny to see Terumi bounce off the equally crazy Mei Feng. Hell, Mei Feng is pretty much the extreme version of Tsubaki Yayoi, considering her insane loyalty to the Imperator, and even killing her own subordinates for even saying the name of the Imperator in a negative light. But at least for Mei Feng's reasons, they're a lot more tolerable than Tsubaki's was. Now, I don't want to load this entire video about Mei Feng because I want to leave her for more later bits, because, you know, she kind of delves into the, you know, as you see more of her, it kind of gets a little wonky a bit, but I don't worry, I will get to more Mei Feng later. Now, I kind of dig how Mai is portrayed in this manga compared to her Remix Heart self. In Variable Heart, it delves a bit deeper how she hates it when people are treated like things rather than the people they are. It even rings more true considering that Mai herself isn't even considered a human being anymore. I also like how Mai is just much better portrayed here, and she's actually much better portrayed here in this one manga than she is in Central Fiction and Remix Heart. She's a lot more expressive in a good kind of way, and she does get a few laughs out of me, which she really never did in Remix Heart. She was kind of dull there. Now, Mai doesn't completely change she doesn't become a completely new character, but she's a lot more tolerable and expressive here in Variable Heart. I even like that some of the other characters in this manga, like Taro, Kajun, and even Shiori, you know, Shiori just a tad bit, who all get to play a more active role in battles, and even assisted in the battle against Fuzzy. As a matter of fact, speaking of Fuzzy, Fuzzy is Mei Feng's subordinate and the artificial vampire trap character. It's funny to see more vampires outside of the Alucard family in BlazBlue, and the fact they can be created is interesting to me, to say the least, especially how it kind of ties back to how Raquel Alucard from Blood Edge Experience was also a vampire, created through unconventional methods. Fuzzy's pretty interesting, as there are actually more Fuzzies, with the first one being introduced to the cast being the 16th Fuzzy. He can also summon the dead as ghouls, and he can even summon a bone dragon. You know, the same bone dragon that's in my stage, Row of Glacier, but who cares about that? Trap bulge. It was also nice to see Ragna take a more active role in this manga, with him being on the quote-unquote antagonist side for a few chapters before helping out Mai's group by fighting alongside Taro. A huge unexpected team-up, until Ragna was whisked away by a Rachel and Falkenhayn cameo, you know, usual BlazBlue. The fact that Ragna can't even remember Mai's name and just calls her boobs is pretty in character for him, and both Ragna and Mai sharing the same views on hating it when people are treated like objects is actually kind of nice. You know, you finally have a connection between these two characters outside of the grimoire business. It was also funny to see Fuzzy's little interactions with Ragna commenting on vampires having shitty personalities, referring to Rachel, obviously. So get this, Ragna is on the ropes against Fuzzy, so Ragna decides to use his Azure Grimoire, but he gets interrupted by Mai's gang, and even Fuzzy was pissed off because Ragna didn't get a chance to use his Azure Grimoire. It pretty much mirrored my reaction exactly, because I wanted to see Ragna use the BlazBlue and see what was going to happen, if he was going to take on Fuzzy with it, but, well, I guess not. Now, moving on from Mei Feng for now and Fuzzy, we gotta talk about another new character that was introduced in this manga, that being Belle, the original quote-unquote version of Platinum the Trinity. You know, the revelation that Platinum the Trinity was actually this prime field device the entire time honestly wasn't the most striking thing to me. I mean, hell, the green eyes and blonde hair could have gave it away, though, you know, Trinity has the same thing too, so it's, you know, a little wonky there, trying to screw with your mind there. Things a lot BlazBlue, but anyway, Belle's a lot more tolerable here and actually intelligent than the Platinum, or at least Luna, that we know today. So Bell has this weird power known as the Luna Senna system. It's like a defense mechanism of sorts. And the Luna Senna system, honestly, this is the most contrived way of trying to explain how Luna and Senna got their names. Like, that's the one thing that threw me off. Luna Senna system? Really? They couldn't find a cooler name for that, or at least a different name, or like Luna Senna. Okay, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Anyway. But anyway, Trinity herself, like Trinity Glassfield, just arrives flat out of nowhere to claim the body. Now, no explanation at all for how, why, or even how she's there. Trinity just pops up for one panel and just claims the body. Now, the thing is that she doesn't really claim the body, per se. She more like pops out of the body. And Trinity does reveal that Trinity previously had Bell for some reason. Because originally, Mai and Kaizou found Bell in this coffin thing, right? You know, where all the prime fields are. You can go in a coffin and find a prime field in there. But Trinity previously had the body of Bell, a prime field, and it isn't explained why. Honestly, it isn't. It's just like, it's just, you know, there, you know, kind of accept that, yeah, she's here because, you know, or Trinity would have originally had to have, you know, Platinum Trinity's body in the future, so of course she has it here. And it honestly makes no sense, but whatever. But I like Bell here. You know, it's just, you know, seeing her interactions, she's a lot more cuter and more tolerable version of Platinum Trinity, which is fine to me. I mean, hell, like, at one point, Mai couldn't really use her out seal because, like, it would, you know, turn her a lot. It'd go and make her some kind of like a berserker mode. So Bell kind of fully fused her spirit with Mai's out seal in order to become his new limiter. And the thing is that Bell pretty much says that she won't be able to meet Mai anymore. You know, if they ever meet again, she wouldn't be the same person again. And I kind of like that because, like, in BlazBlue Central Fiction, you know, Mai recognizes Bell as Platinum, but Platinum doesn't really recognize Mai anymore, which I kind of find it felt kind of sad, actually. You know, Mai was, you know, bonding with this little girl just for her to, like, you know, essentially become someone else. Someone else pretty terrible. So about nearly halfway through the manga, Mai heads back home where she can finally meet her parents, Ren Hazuki and Hoichiro Hazuki, who were only showed in a tiny cameo and then alluded to in Remix Heart. Now, yeah, Hoichiro Hazuki, a martial lord of the NOL, who was the man who was actually able to fight toe-to-toe with Azrael of all people, and on top of that, take him down in the Ikaruga Civil War, which is literally the most insane thing I heard Blaze was done. Yeah, screw god powers and all this shit, phenomenal intervention, etc., etc. No, the guy took on, like, freaking Azrael with his bare hands and then beat him anyway, which is ridiculous. Like, Azrael's not the kind of person that will just lose. I mean, hell, he'll activate his Enchant Dragonoff before he loses, so it's hinted that Azrael did use his Enchant Dragonoff. I mean, it's not really hinted, but that's my little theory. I mean, I feel like Azrael wouldn't lose without leveling up his Enchant, or releasing the limiters off the Enchant Dragonoff and fighting Hoichiro. So the fact that possibly Hoichiro fought him at full power is, you know, insane. You know, the guy who can rip dimensions open with his bare hands. Ugh. Anyway, moving on to Mai's mother, Ren Hazuki. Ren is also a badass. Ren poses as this caring mother figure while also being a beast on the battlefield when she trains Mai. Like, Ren is just, she's not as strong as Hoichiro, but damn, she's pretty damn close. Ren also has a special technique known as Vision, which can copy any technique by seeing it once. Essentially, the Sharingan from Part 1 Naruto. And apparently that Mai can also learn it because the Vision is just an art that anyone, I guess, with the aptitude for it could learn. You know, people with the time to put into it can learn. It's kind of crazy and really busted, but I guess Mai's parents are busted, so there's no point of really complaining about that one. So moving back to Hoichiro, Hoichiro seems like a dick at first. He calls Mai a coward. He even took away her only weapon and began berating her. But he does it out of love and even watches her progress, which I just find hilarious. Like, I find it hilarious because, like, Hoichiro, like, he seems over the top obsessed with power. And he's like, dude, you're a chick now. Why you look like a chick? Where's my son? And why are you so weak now? You got this cool spirit, nice, but it's lame. Whoa, you're lame. What the hell? But he's more like that tough love kind of figure. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna treat my daughter like shit, but I do want to see her get stronger because she will take over her family one day when I just, you know, wither up and die. I don't think death is even gonna stop Hoichiro. But anyway. It was funny later that Hoichiro actually meets up with Kokonoe. Kokonoe kind of pops into the Hoichiro household. And Kokonoe, obviously being a criminal, being recognized by the NOL because she now works for Sector 7. This is shortly after the ARCSYS Civil War, so, Hoichiro even calls Kokonoe a Grimalkin, which is like the only person that ever called Kokonoe Grimalkin was Hakumen, which I just find like a nice callback because like it just shows like these two dudes are no nonsense and it's like straight up like, oh yeah, you're a Bakeneko or a Grimalkin or a monster cat. We don't have time for this. God damn it, Kokonoe. I just like that. I don't know why. I just like that little callback because only one person has ever called Kokonoe Grimalkin before, and that's like hell. I think like if I remember correctly, I think Terami's called Kokonoe Grimalkin once. So I guess Hakumen isn't the only person, but I for life me can't remember. So anyway, we can finally go back to Mei Fang. Because I told myself I was going to leave her till a little bit later. So Mei Fang. So as a child, Mei Fang was part of a small noble house, which her father essentially used her as a tool to elevate the social standing with other noble houses to make him look better. It was revealed that she actually had a relationship with the current imperator at the time, that being Tenjo Amano Hokusaka, and became close friends with her. Now Mei Fang worked up the ranks of the NOL in her goal of serving Tenjo, just to learn that Tenjo was killed in the ARCSYS Civil War, and even more so that Ibukido was destroyed during the ARCSYS Civil War. And in the after effects of the war, broke Mei Fang's mind, and she began fighting for the Imperator by killing others who opposed the NOL. Though this time she was fighting for more of the name of Imperator rather than the old Tenjo she loved. It was kind of like more of a twisted thing. Like, yeah, I'm still fighting for the Imperator, that being, old Tenjo rather than Izanami, who was the current Imperator as of after the ARCSYS Civil War, because Izanami took her place. So her like, the thing is, like, the change from Mei Fang being this crazy person is actually a little way too sudden. And it really wasn't fleshed out enough to make you believe that Mei Fang would become nuts so quickly. Now, granted, war and couldn't mess with your mind, but it's a giant transition from the happy, kind Mei Fang. There's no like big lead in. Like the moment after she sees Ibukido destroyed, she's like, "Oh, war sucks, bro. War is garbage, man. I want to become evil and shit like that." But it didn't give enough time to actually, would make you believe. It just immediately right after those events, oh, I'm crazy. I'm going to kill my own subordinates. Beep, 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 boop, boop. Jin Kisaragi himself also shows up for a last-minute cameo to fight off Mei Fang alongside Mai. So, during the light novel, BlazBlue Spiral Shift Hyojin no Eiyu, aka Hero of the Frozen Blade, Mei Fang brutally killed several of Jin's comrades in the ARCSYS Civil War, including his squad leader Grimwood Herster, and severely injured his fellow comrade in the form of Karagina Parset to the point where she couldn't even use her drive anymore. Which means that Jin does harbor some hatred towards Mei Fang, and it's nice to see that little reference in this manga. And also another reference to a different light novel, this time being Blood Experiments, when Terami shows up to call the now transforming Mei Fang a mosaic. Now, the only other character in the series that was ever called a mosaic was Kiro Hikagami, and that was because she was just a mashup of her deceased Prime Field sisters. Now, this might be a stretch as a reference, but I felt like I needed to point that out. Again, Jin showing up at the very end really didn't amount to much, as he was just there to make a connection back to BlazBlue Spiral Shift, since those were during the events of the ARCSYS Civil War, while Variable Heart is like the events after the ARCSYS Civil War. So it kind of like has to tie back to Spiral Shift, which is, I mean, it's okay. It's okay, at least Jin has a reason to be there. At least it's not just there to say, hey, I'm Jin. I must fight all evil. I'm Jin. So now that we finally reached the end of, my positives, I wanted to talk about Mei Fang's big master plan. So, Mei Fang's big master super evil goal is to obtain the power she needs to prevent all wars. Kinda. To do that, she gave into her hatred thanks to Terami's spirit. She fused with the remnants of the Black Beast and was on the verge of becoming a second Gigant Taki Mikazuchi. So to do that, to become a next Taki Mikazuchi, she would need to smelt Mai's body and Bell in order to transform to this monstrous creature being that she can control, and it'll essentially be like the will of the Imperator. Now, it's not the route I expected to go with Mei Fang, and I have my issues with this as well. so I can finally actually talk about the negatives of this manga. There's not that many, but it does hinder the manga as a whole, and even affects like Mei Fang and a couple other characters. So yeah, let's start talking about the negatives of Variable Heart, because honestly, I have a lot to say. Now, the pacing of Variable Heart is a major problem. The pacing is way too fast, and it was clear that this manga was rushed. You know, like it was clear it was rushed, and which is no more apparent. And then two factors. One, Variable Heart is a lot shorter than Remix Heart by obviously the chapter count and the page count, because, well, Variable Heart was only 18 chapters long. Remix Heart was 25. So, like, you know, there's 7 chapters missing from between. And you don't get to spend much time with the characters to really get attached to many of them. Not even in this manga either, which is really depressing. I'm kind of glad that characters like Noelle, Makoto, and Tsubaki don't have roles in this manga, because they didn't do diddly in Remix Heart. But after Mai's confrontation with her parents, nearly everyone but Mai and Belle somewhat gets left to the wayside. While Mai goes off and fights a group of fuzzies, which were significantly weaker this go around, as it took Mai, Kajun, Ragna, Shiori, and Taro, etc., to even take on the original 16th fuzzy, so, you know, there's that. And then you get Mei Fang herself. And, you know, speaking about the final battle against Mei Fang, this was my second factor about the manga being super rushed. Now, in the final chapter alone, which isn't even that long, not even that long, it's only like a few pages long, about like your standard chapter length long. In the final chapter, Mei Fang becomes this weird Black Beast hybrid thing. Her master goal is revealed. Terumi shows up a second time to make Mei Fang give in to her hatred. Kajun drops the bomb that Mei Fang and Mai are now in a phantom field, a concept which BlazBlue is actually a concept from X-Blaze, which was later used in the BlazBlue games via CF. Anyway, Mai's friends show up. They do nothing, only for Mai to kill Mei Fang in one strike via the outseal. And then Mai meets up with her buddies for like 2 pages, and then the manga ends. The manga literally just straight up ends right after Mei Fang dies. And it doesn't really end right directly after Mei Fang dies, but like, it's only like a few pages after Mei Fang gets killed in one hit, I might add. Just for it to say, yeah, it's over. Manga's over. Woo. It's so jarring to see how fast this manga ended. The thing that Remix Heart has over this is that Remix Heart had an epilogue chapter at least 2 chapters after Cypher Albar was defeated. Like, Remix Heart had a few filler chapters that really didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. But Variable Heart wasn't doing all that bad. It really wasn't doing that bad until it got closer and closer to the end. It just rushed everything. It rushed Mai's little training arc deal. It didn't really rush My Little Trainer, because she had like at least a few chapters to train. But it rushed the ending badly, man. And it made Mai's train arc feel kind of useless, because she was just going to do the same thing she did prior to, like, you know, prior to beating her parents. Like, her training didn't really, like, come into play with her fight against Mei Fang. It kind of felt like she was just there to meet her parents for her cameos, which really sucks. And it honestly should have had the 25 chapter limit that Remix Heart had to flesh out things more. When Remix Heart had 25 chapters and didn't do anything with all of its characters, and the fact that Variable Heart had 18 and still didn't do anything with most of everyone, damn, that really does say a lot about the writing here. It had an opportunity to do it and just still didn't do it. And as I mentioned before, Mei Fang's development and understanding as a villainless character wasn't given enough time to be fully fleshed out. Mei Fang was a lot stronger in the opening, which is crazy. She was a lot stronger in the opening, but as the series went on and her backstory was revealed, and then how she was handled in the end of it all, it kind of ruined Mei Fang, you know? Like, I will agree that she was done a lot better than Cypher Albar was, but that really wasn't saying much, if I'm being honest, because, like, you know, Cypher Albar was a really weak villain. He was more like, aha, I got power, I'm becoming evil now, and Mei Fang was kind of like that, but, like, she had a lot stronger presence throughout the entire manga. I mean, she's essentially chasing Mai this entire manga, which is actually a lot more threatening. Cypher kind of just appears, like, halfway through the manga, and it's like, yep, mime, use your body. And Mei Fang kind of does the same thing. Like, but yeah, like, the thing is, Mei Fang was actually written closely by Mori. Now, I mentioned before that Remix Heart and Variable Heart really weren't handled by Mori. Like, I remember I mentioned before that Sumeragi obviously did the art. She did the art, and I will admit that her art was actually done a lot better in this manga. Which, I mean, it doesn't look that different, but like the art does look a lot better compared to here. Everything looks a lot darker. You know, it's not like, you know, overly bright and colorful. You know, despite it being just like a black and white manga, obviously. But yeah, the funny thing about it is like this manga, the Deko, I don't see that Deko Akoi was involved with this manga. Like, cause like Remix Heart was written by Deko Akoi, and it was written he was the director of BlazBlue Ultimate, right? Variable Heart was actually written by Mori this time, and you can definitely see it. The story is actually moving. You know, the story is actually getting somewhere. So, you know, having it change hands to Mori was pretty well done, but he didn't, you know, give Mei Feng the time to be herself. Like, Mori even mentioned that, you know, he even explained her specifically in the BlazBlue Central Fiction official setting material collection. He says, quote, Mei Feng was a character who had a plan the whole time but wasn't able to carry it out. And it was nice to let her live and act more than originally imagined. Mei Feng was a character who chose the wrong methods but was still understandable. I like contemplative villains, and to be worthy of the villain's role, I felt that she had to have depth. So Mori kind of compared Mei Feng to Terumi, who he created specifically just to be evil. Like, he created, you know, Hazuma, well, he created Terumi, by that, with the sole basis of he just wants Terumi just to be straight up evil with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. That's the whole design of Terumi. So when he created Mei Feng, he wanted her to have depth and be recognized as a, you know, as a character that people would, you know, at least understand, and then still know that she chose the wrong method to be a villain. Now, the problem with her role as a villain, now, I mentioned before, Mei Feng started out great in the beginning. She started out great. She had like this looming presence over Mai constantly. Wherever Mai goes, Mei Feng would show up. You know, she was constantly hounding Mai because she wanted her body, which was actually tied back to Remix Heart, how Cypher wanted Mai's body to create, like, you know, the burning red grimoire. And that was fine. She was fine in the beginning. But her end game was essentially rushed. And therefore, you really couldn't get attached to Mei Feng like you could have gotten, you know, with characters like, you know, like what Mei Feng misses a mark out of is she's not, you can never compare her to villains like Kazuma, Terumi, Relius, and Izanami, who are so loved by other people because they had the proper time to grow and show off what they were capable of as villains. You got characters like Izanami, who people really weren't, you know, enthused about back in, you know, Chrono Phantasmus. Of course you couldn't. She really wasn't, she was the villain, but she wasn't a villain that you could get attached to. But with her motives and how her character was played off in BlazBlue Central Fiction, you can kind of understand why she's like this, and you could kind of, you know, get attached to Izanami. Now, Izanami is not the most fleshed out villain, but she's a villain you can really understand why she acts the way she does and how she functions the way she does. You know, she has this looming presence because she's super threatening, and she's threatening on more of a grand scale than Mei Feng ever was. I mean, granted, Mei Feng wanted to become a giant. She wanted to create a Take Mikazuchi, but it's not that's not that grand. I mean, hell, Izanami had her own. She had the Take Mikazuchi and just used it for her own. Granted, that was years later, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, like, Mei Feng didn't get that much time, you know, to, you know, despite her being, you know, the main villain, the main focus villain, she didn't really get that much time to, you know, get that much to her, which is a shame. It was said by Mori that Mei Feng stuck around longer than she was originally planned, as she was just the main villain in BlazBlue Spireship as well, and I can totally understand that. But honestly, you don't, like, even after knowing Mei Feng's, like, you know, goal and whatnot, it was all like, you know, it wasn't enough of it, you know? Like, you didn't get enough time for her to, you know, hang out with Tenjo. It was kind of like stuck to, like, you meet her you had her first meeting with Tenjo, you get like a couple panels of her hanging out with Tenjo, but you don't get really a good relationship to why she would care so deeply about Tenjo, and then break down as a result of her death. You know, like, you don't get that much time with that, and you don't get that much time with Mei Feng in general. You just get you don't get time with Mei Feng as the character, more as Mei Feng like just the straight up evil bad guy of sorts. You know, but yeah, that's BlazBlue Variable Heart in a nutshell. Honestly, it wasn't bad, but there are some things that could have been done with it, and honestly, it could have been a lot better than this. Mori, at least he had a direction to go with it, because thank God he was in charge of it, because Deko Akoi was really bad. He was bad in Alter Memory, and he's bad here. So Deco Quaid needs to stay away from BlazBlue in general. But honestly, I feel like, you know, it could have been fleshed out more. You know, it's a reason that Variable Heart feels so different from BlazBlue Remix Heart, because like different people are in control of it. But yeah, honestly, I feel like this manga could have had a lot more time to, you know, breathe, because everything just happened so quickly. You know, everything's happening so fast. You know, you don't get that many things to do with characters, and it sucks. It really does suck. But I would say at least Variable Heart was better than Remix Heart. It's just, it needed more time to, you know, flesh out and be its own thing. But that's it, guys. I finally, quote unquote, reviewed Variable Heart. Not that bad, but honestly, it could have been a lot better. But yeah, that's the end of that. See you later, Variable Heart. Only needed one video to talk about you, so there you go.